All right, Nick. Coming in live at a reasonable time that we thought we might be doing a show after a baseball game. Turns out, inclement weather. I don't know how inclement it actually was down there in Atlanta, but I'll take their word for it. Reds get canceled game 2, so we get to talk about game 1. And you have sweep on there, which is kind of funny. Locked in. Look at him. I mean, the dude's.
Well, I thought I had a 4-minute intro.
Well, wait a minute. Time out.
We gotta get this up on Twitter here.
Time out. All right. So here's the deal. I said, I'm going to throw my son under the bus. He deleted the folder. Now, people are going to freak out and say, well, what about the intro? What about the intro? The intro's gone right now. I have to re-download it, and I can do that. But I wanted to make sure that we were on time at 8:30. We could have gone late, but I figured we'd be on time. And I said, hey, I'm not going to run the intro. I'm just going to start the show off the screen. What happened was Nick got a little flustered and decided he wasn't going to tell me that he needed the 4-minute intro. Because if he said that, of course I would have bought some time here. So
well, I'm done now. Sometimes you talk for like 3 minutes before I even jump in. So
that's what I knew this. Here. Yeah, I was trying to buy myself as much time. I was going to sit there and talk for 4 straight minutes about nothing, because I can do that with the best of them. And then it was going to give you enough time to get back on track before I throw it over to you. You have sweep on there, which is a little funny. I think that's got some humor to it.
Did they not sweep the Braves?
I mean,
they won both games. They're leaving town. They didn't lose.
I think that's what you should have said first. I think you should have said they went into town, they played, they didn't lose any games, they left town. That's a sweep. All right. Open hand up, honest to God. Did not get a chance to see every single pitch of the first game. I kind of was running around making sure that I had everything that I need for a trip to Chicago, which I don't know. I thought about putting out a post about, hey, is there anybody in Chicago that, kind of would like to just do something, because I'm going to be bored for 3 days by myself. And yeah, so there's that. But
Cubs in town?
They're not. Of course they're not. And I've been to Guaranteed Rate Field once, I think is the name of it. And that was plenty. I've seen it. It's good. No problems.
Should be plenty of tickets available.
Yeah. And then,
They host the Mariners this weekend. There you go.
Mariners. I think I'll pass. Instead, I'm going to watch the Reds. So there is that. All right, folks. As always, please like the stream. Postponed, canceled. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's postponed. People in the chat are telling me it's postponed. What did I say? Canceled? Of course, they're not canceling the game. They're postponing it for a later date, but canceled's the same thing in my book. But nonetheless, like the stream, please, if you don't mind. I know it's a weird situation tonight. We're not coming on live after a game, but the Reds did win, and now we find ourselves in a unique situation that I'm sure we'll talk about here tonight. As always, the box score recap is presented by Nick Kirby. Nick, take it away unless you got any other thoughts.
Well, let's roll. All right, Reds taking on the Braves. Game 1 of what was supposed to be a doubleheader. Frankie Montas against Alan Winans. And the Reds jumped on Winans early. The substitute teacher just called back up from AAA. The second batter of the game, Ellie De La Cruz singled. He then stole second base, number 50 on the year. And then with 2 outs, Spencer Steer hit a ball that just got past the diving right fielder, Adam Duvall. Ellie scored easily. Steer tried to extend it to a triple. Then the Braves cutoff man, Zach Short, looked like he was throwing a wet bar of soap. Spencer Steer trucked around and scored on a good old-fashioned Little League homer. But the Reds weren't done. Stevenson walked, and then Jake Fraley crushed his first home run since April 15th, 4-0 Reds. Frankie Montas did give up a run in the bottom of the first. He walked the leadoff hitter, but then he was not helped as Will Benson could not come up with a single hit to him, which allowed the leadoff walk to get to third. And then that runner scored on a fielder's choice to make it a 4-1 game. Ellie De La Cruz also could not hold onto a ball that should have been a double play to end the inning, but Montas did strike out the final two batters to get out of that jam. In the bottom of the second, Montas gave up an infield single, a double, and then another single that just snuck through the infield for 3 Reds. But in the top of the third, the Reds responded. Elly De La Cruz crushed a leadoff home run, 402 feet, 106 off the bat, 5-3 Reds. Later in the inning, Spencer Steer doubled. Tyler Stevenson walked again, and then Noelvi Marte doubled them both home to make it 7-3 Reds. In the bottom of the third, Montas gave up back-to-back singles. The second was off the glove of first baseman Spencer Steer, which allowed the runner to get to third. A sac fly from Eddie Rosario made it a 7-4 ball game. In the top of the fourth, though, Elly De La Cruz singled with 2 outs. He stole second base, number 51 on the year. Jeimer Candelario was hit by a pitch, and then Spencer Steer crushed a double at 107 off the bat. Both runners scored, 9-4 Reds. Then in the bottom of the fourth, Frankie Montas threw a scoreless inning, struck out 2, but he would not survive the bottom of the fifth. He walked 2 batters and left the bases loaded, but Sam Moll struck out Jared Kelenic and Nacho Alvarez to strand the bases loaded and keep the Reds' lead at 9-4. And then the Reds' bullpen absolutely dominated from then on out. Lucas Sims threw a perfect inning. He struck out 1. Tony Santillan threw 2 perfect innings with 4 strikeouts. And Justin Wilson threw a perfect 9th with a strikeout. Reds win 9-4. Reds improved to 49-53 on the season. Reds have now won series in 2024 against the Phillies, Dodgers, Yankees, and the Braves.
We have a deep drive of the day, and it's been a while. I mean, it's been a long time coming. Jake Fraley. God bless Jake Fraley. He's been through a lot this year. Let's hope that this thing gets him going. His second home run of the season. Second home run of the season, 105.3 off the bat, 371 feet. That would give the Reds a 4-0 lead. Win probability would jump up to 82%, and as we all know, it would be 100%. And what is 100%? DSC being a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. And thank you, as always, to John and his team. All right. Well, there's things that have been kind of hitting the rumor mill already. I don't know when we'll get into that. Maybe we'll get it on the back half. We have the sweep. What does it mean? I'm going to say something that maybe is a little controversial in the standpoint that some might not believe that this psychological effect would take place, but I really think the Reds basically drew the short end of the stick today. They're playing relatively better baseball. The Braves were not playing good baseball, and I would have loved to play in that second game today. And I'm not saying a guaranteed win, Nick, but we've talked about this on how many shows where it's not so much who you face, because everyone faces everybody, but it's a matter of when you face them. And we caught the Braves at a good time, and now we're going to have to go back and possibly play them at a later date in which they might have their act together at that point. I'm not suggesting for a single second that it's 100% win, but I almost in my mind felt like we had a good chance of sweeping them for real. I know you're saying we still swept them, but I might have been all the way back if they swept them for real. I'm still borderline. Must admit, still borderline. Where are you at after the sweep?
In terms of them not playing the second game, I don't know. I'm kind of really torn on am I happy or not? Because obviously Chris Sale is the Cy Young front runner, so there's no guarantee that you're not going to face him the next time. He could happen to draw that one game that you play.
Yeah.
But they are missing Austin Riley on paternity leave. That's a pretty big break. They're missing Ozzie Albies right now. They've lost 4 in a row. They're not playing well. So yeah, I get it both. I feel like if the Reds would have got more help in the NL wild card race, I probably would have been more happy that this game didn't get played. But they're not getting any help at all right now. In fact, it looks like the Reds are going to be in the exact same place that they were after they lost to the Nationals on Sunday night. Don't gain a single game after winning 2 games against the Braves. So, yeah, it's weird because this week, and we'll get into here as the show goes on, but this week, these games feel so incredibly important because of the trade deadline. And then once we get past the trade deadline, let's say the Reds just do nothing, they kind of hang in the race, then really the games aren't going to matter as much for at least another month. It's not going to be as much. You feel like it's life or death almost for your season. It's such a weird spot that the Reds are in. I do not envy the front office right now because you are in a spot right now. You are damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. You decide to buy, even a soft buy, and this team, like a lot of people said, just falls flat on their face. People are going to crush them. They decide to sell a couple pieces. They sell India. They sell Montas. And the team gets hot, and the NL wildcard race falls right in their lap. People are going to be like, why did you sell? You know, they're really in a lose-lose situation almost at this point.
I completely agree. That's why when we do this show and we talk about trades, all that really matters is what you get back in return. I mean, I sat here and I said I think they should be sellers, but that doesn't mean that I think that they should just sell regardless, no matter what. Of course, that would be a ridiculous thing to do. I think it just comes down to leverage and finding yourself in a position where you gotta take a chance in certain spots or take a risk. I don't know how far away Matt McLain is, but the Reds know better than us. And I mean, if they think that Matt McLain's going to come back close to what he was, last year, even relatively close to what he was last year, then it makes getting rid of Jonathan India a little bit easier to swallow because you can kind of fill that void. I'd also, and I mean, I'm not trying to be that guy with Jonathan India, but I'm just playing the math here. He's going to struggle here at some point just because you can't play that well that he played for that long. Now, I know there was some struggling at the beginning of the season, but, I'm with you. I don't know if there's a right play at all, but I lean towards selling because I just think this team just doesn't have the goods. I don't think that they do, and maybe I'm pessimistic. Maybe I'm wrong about that, and I'm not here to say that, who cares, kick the can to next season. I just don't think that there's anybody that if they got rid of, I would be like super worried that they're gone. Like, I think that they're replaceable. The guys that we're talking about that they're going to move are replaceable. And if there's another team that's desperate, if the Yankees are desperate, or if you find yourself in a position where the Dodgers look up and they realize they could use a better second baseman and they have, I mean, hell, they got everything that you could possibly want. They're like the rich, spoiled kid that never plays with, some brand new toy they got bought because there's 10 other toys to play with. I just, I don't know what they get back in return, Nick, but I would say I'm still on the selling side.
It just, for me, it really just depends on how they do the next couple days. I mean, you could have a wild swing this weekend. I mean, if this weekend goes south, I think it becomes pretty obvious that they lose a couple games and they become 5-6 back. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that you try to sell. But if you're still 3-4 back and the returns aren't game-changing pieces, I don't know. I think you roll the dice. But the margin's just it's just so thin right now.
Well, it's why if you're in the front office, you have to have a very good understanding of your own depth, your own team. You have to know your team better than anybody else, and they're going to have to make a decision. It all comes down to what their value, how much they value Jonathan India, because his name's going to be the one that pops up the most. And I don't want to keep, discussing things that we'll ultimately get to towards the end of the show, and I'm sure we'll get deeper into it. So let's jump down to the next column here. We'll go to Jake Fraley. It's just, I guess at this point, nice to see him hit a home run, and more so, have a good day from the standpoint that he needs more good days. And we've done this so many times on the show to where it's just like, it feels like we're just more wishful thinking than we're actually being of truth speaking. I don't know what this means for Jake Fraley, but I know it's been a tough ass year for him, and I am hopeful that the visit that he had with his family, coupled with the All-Star break, gave him a chance to settle down a little bit, and maybe it's changed his mindset or his vibe. I don't know, but it would be nice.
Yeah, that's 3 extra base hits for him in the last 4 games. and he only has uh, he has 14 on the year. So I mean
Right.
that that's a pretty positive sign. Yeah, he did take the time off and also had the All-Star break on top of that. So you hope that he's refreshed, but he's kind of in a situation where, if things go south, unfortunately could, just kind of get right back into the same, I think, exhaustion level, maybe the best way to say kind of where I felt like he was just mentally and everything else. So, but he's a big piece. I mean, this guy was the Reds' best hitter against right-handed pitching for the last couple years, uh, and you need all the bats you can get right now. So you hope that this is the sign of good things to come, and you just hope that it honestly hitting that one home run kind of felt like a weight lifted off his
Yeah.
shoulders, because I'm sure he felt it. I'm
Oh,
sure
there's
he
no doubt.
knows he hadn't hit a home run since the middle of April. Guy that hit 15 home runs last year in 111 games.
I know. It's really hard to explain how he could go that long without just accidentally running into a baseball.
At Great
Like,
American Ballpark.
I know. It it just goes to show you. It just goes to show you that, there's times where you get hot and there's times where you get incredibly cold. For every Reese Hines, there's a Jake Fraley. For every Aristides Aquino situation, there's a Jake Fraley type situation. Will Benson type situation from last year at the beginning of the year. So, I don't know. I'm not going to put much stock into it. We'll wait and see, but it'll be interesting to see how this Reds team continues to look over the next the handful of games at this point, and what they decide to do at the deadline. And I'll say this: I'll be upset if they. I don't want to stand pat. I want to make a decision one way or the other, and I don't want to be caught in the middle of this thing, because you can't be caught in the middle, in my opinion. You either move guys or you go out and try to get some help, and we'll see what they decide to do. Ellie and Steer. I mean, what more is there to say about Ellie? I can't say anything less. I mean, there's nothing else I could say about him. Nothing. I'm just not going to, because I'm just going to sit here and tell you how good he is, and I think I can't say it yet. But I think I can't say it yet, because I'll just shut up, because then I'll just turn it. People get mad at me, blah blah blah. I'm not going to do that. But I would appreciate Ellie De La Cruz playing baseball in a Reds uniform, because I hope it's forever. But if it's not, you better enjoy it now, because the dude's unbelievable. Spencer Steer may be more appropriate to talk about. He had a hell of a day. You have them both on there, obviously, from their offensive production. And I want to say, I've always complained, Nick, about what? I've complained about this offense not being able to help this starting pitching out and get on the board, get ahead, and they did that today. The offense won a baseball game today. What do you think? Kudos to them, by the way.
And responded multiple times.
Yes.
They didn't give up the lead, but it got dicey.
Yeah,
It got
4-3.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they responded. Yeah, multiple times. How about Ellie? Just the 51 stolen bases. I mean, his minor league high was 47 in 2022 and 121 games. So
Can I say something?
Yeah.
As great as I think that he is, I hope this doesn't become like a distraction. And I don't mean that in a negative. I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying. I really want him just to make the right decision, make the right baseball play, steal bases when it's appropriate to steal them. Don't just steal them because you're trying to chase a number. I do think he's trying to chase a number. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, you steal 51 bases. I'm not going to complain. But I just want to openly say I really hope that he takes it and understands that he doesn't need to try to steal in every single situation. So, and there's not many situations where he shouldn't steal, but there are a few, as we've documented before. But I think he's chasing a number, Nick. I could be wrong, but I think he is. I don't think he's going to be slowing down anytime soon. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I got to look up what's the he's not going to break like the record, but he's going to be in a territory of the most since whatever. And I'm sure he probably wants to beat
100.
what Acuna had. Maybe I don't think he's not going to get 100. But what is
I
Acuna's high was 73. So I bet that's a number he wants to beat, which I think he's well on pace to do. I don't think he's no way he's gonna get 100.
I'm not saying he's going to get to 100. I'm saying that his young 22-year-old brain has had the thought of 100 in his brain before. There's no doubt in my mind. Hook him up to a lie detector test and ask him the question: have you considered stealing 100 bases this season? And I think the answer is going to be yes.
So to give you something quantifiable here, no one since 1990 has more than 78 stolen bases. So maybe that might be, he might want to get to 80. 80 would be a number that would kind of, I bet he knows this. I'm sure he knows that Jose Reyes in 2007 stole 78 bases. No one since 1990. Ricky Henderson was the last guy to go over that number with 93 in 1988. So 80 would be a pretty big number for him to hit. But I agree. I think he is trying to hit a number.
Right.
But I also don't think it hurts the Reds.
I don't think listen, I don't think it hurts the Reds. I just want him to make sure that he's not trying to like steal third base with 2 outs and it's a 1-run game or it's a tie game or something like that. I'm not saying he's going to. It's just something that I'm keeping an eye on. All right, jumping to the back half of the rundown. As always, we'll talk about Game Time and 988. Shout out to our friends that do the Lord's work, if you want to call it that, at 988, trying to make sure that if you have a problem and or you need some help, there's no problem at all. Just call 988, text 988, and you can get some help there. Mantherapy.org, as always. Maybe not as much of a critical hotline immediately, but it is a place where you can start to work on some things that perhaps are giving you some issues that you want to become better at. So mantherapy.org, check it out. Not saying that you should go there just because we promote it, but you should go there if you need some semblance of help in any manner whatsoever. Game Time, Nick, is a ticketing app. You enjoy the Game Time app?
Yeah, absolutely. And Reds will be back in town next week against
the
Chicago Cubs. I think that'd be a fun series to go to, right on the trade deadline.
Literally on the deadline.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you should use the Game Time app and get out of the ballpark.
Yeah, and if you're going to use the Game Time app, you're going to use the code CINCY, CINCY. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Terms do apply. And the thing about the Game Time app is you can wait till the absolute last minute, and there's a little trick of the trade with the Game Time app. I don't know if you know this or not, but you get 2 clicks, check out. But more importantly, it's one of those kind of situations where you can find a lightning deal, take advantage of the lightning deal, and then, Nick, just saying, this is the end of the Game Time read, by the way. Just saying, you can go on to MLB.com or the ballpark app, and you can see all the seats that are open. Sometimes you might be able to leisure your way around and in the 4th, 5th inning, kind of check out different parts of the park is what I'll say.
Yeah, and if you go on Monday, make sure you take some binoculars. You can see in the dugout, see if you see any hugs.
This is true. It's a good point. It's a good point by you. Shout out to Game Time. As always, use code CINCY, CINCY. Get $20 for first purchase. Terms do apply. All right. Montas, not so great. Bullpen, great. Where do you stand on Montas at this point? Everybody's always like, oh, Montas, trade him. And here's the thing. I got news for you. If we want to trade him, how many other teams are looking to take him and actually give up something of value for him? Now, starters are important, Nick. And I'm not downplaying Montas and what he can be or any of that, but let's face it, I don't know what folks are expecting in return for Montas. But do you still believe in him the way you did at the beginning of the season?
I don't know if I believe in him as much as at the beginning of the season. I will say this though. If you are someone who is let's go all in, let's try to make the playoffs. You want to keep Frankie Montas on this team. Now, if you can trade him and get something back, then I think you have to weigh that option. But um, I think there might be a little bit of a short memory of what actual bad starting pitchers look like. I thought we saw a lot of that last year. I don't think Frankie Montas is anywhere close to the level of some of the pitching that we saw last year. He's pitching bad right now. I don't think today was necessarily as bad as I think it looked. When I was going back through after the game had already ended, putting together the box score recap, that error from Ellie De La Cruz was a really big error. I mean, he should have faced 2 less batters in the first inning. He had to throw 102 pitches just to get through his 4 to 3rd inning. So that was kind of a big deal. He had a couple singles that just got through, an infield single against him. He had too many walks. That was his own doing. But I don't think it was necessarily a atrocious start from him. But in terms of like what other teams want Frankie Montas, I would just remind people that Lance Lynn last year got traded at the trade deadline to the Dodgers with an ERA in the mid-6s. And who was he on the White Sox? I don't even remember who was on. Was it the White Sox?
White Sox, yeah.
They got a little bit of an actual prospect back. I don't think it was anything huge, but we have been talking about, well, I have been saying, hey, man, maybe Lance Lynn would make sense for the Reds because the Reds rotation was so dire, but you could probably get him for just taking on a salary. Right. And then it actually costs more than that. So I just remind people of that say DFA Frankie Montas or he's not going to get anything back.
I don't think anyone's saying DFA him. I hope that
I saw it today.
Well,
I saw it today.
Come on. There's always the crazy people. We're not DFAing Montas. His outing looked a little bit better because Sam Moll came in and shoved. Let's face the facts a little bit on that.
Base hit
yeah, it gives up a grand slam and things might look a little different. Moll is a guy that gets overlooked. We do this show so many games that we kind of have these same bits. But is there anyone more overlooked than this guy? Is there anyone more overlooked? He comes in, he does his job. What seems like not 9 out of 10 times, almost like 19 out of 20 times. It kind of feels like today he comes in a tough spot, back-to-back strikeouts, and that was I don't want to say that was the game, but in my mind, that was the knockout blow in a way. Now, I know there was plenty of baseball left to be played after that, but that was a huge blow to the psyche and or the confidence of the Atlanta Braves. So, Sam Moll, give him all the credit in the world, and at this point, nobody's going to remember about the deadline trade that they made last year, but it's a pretty damn good trade.
Yeah.
Unbelievably good, yeah.
And honestly, at this point, look, if Joe Boyle turns out to be a Cy Young winner, you'd say congratulations, Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas.
They figured him out.
Yeah, you got lucky. Because this was a great trade. This is, the kind of trade you need to be making. The margin trade. I think these are more important than trying to go out and make that big, sexy splash trade. I mean, this was a great trade that helped your ball club. You traded a player that, was a lottery ticket. And I hope the Reds can, maybe do something similar. I know I talked about on the podcast audio only this morning about Ryan Mountcastle. If the Orioles are looking to move him with still 2 more years of control, that's the biggest key of that. That's the kind of player that could be a sneaky trade that I don't think is, the big trade that everyone goes, wow, what a trade. That was incredible, but could really help this team over the next couple of years. Maybe similar to Sam Moll. It probably would cost more than Sam Moll. Let me be clear on that. But that's the kind of moves that I think the Reds need to be looking to make, if any.
All right, speaking of moves, there was a report today that came out, Nick, and I'll let you throw it up there on the screen. It obviously pertained to Jonathan India and the New York Yankees, if you want to read it.
Yeah, really the first actual report of a team interested in Jonathan India that we know concrete, at least this since the season started. So the Yankees are interested, but the Reds have basically said they're not making him available unless they fall out of the race. And I guess at this point, what is falling out of the race? The Reds' worst case scenario at this point, I think, can only be like 7 games out. And that would be they have to lose every game and the teams ahead of them all have to win. So what is falling out of the race? I don't even really know what that exactly means at this point. And then there was a report yesterday that the Reds are likely to trade from bullpen depth, but that's not a sign of the deadline direction, just more because the Reds do have, we forgot about Ian Jabot and Emilio Pagan. Those guys got to come back on the roster at some point. And you have Zach Maxwell's just sitting there at AAA right now. So yeah, I get Jonathan India. The thing that's going to make me more believing that India could actually get traded is if I see that there's more than just the Yankees interested. Only one team being interested makes me think that the Yankees aren't going to pay that price for Jonathan India that the Reds have in mind, that they say it's worth moving on. If I start hearing, oh, the Dodgers are interested too, another team's interested, then I might be going, okay, yeah, I think this could actually happen. Until I hear more than just the Yankees, I just don't see it getting done, because I don't think the Yankees, if they're not competing against anyone else, are going to pay enough.
Well, I think that's saving face, the comment in regards to making sure that they fall out of the race. It all comes down to what they're going to get in return. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but if the Yankees were to go out and give up some top prospect for Jonathan India, it doesn't matter if they're in the race or not. The Reds are going to pull the trigger on it. It all comes down to how desperate do the Yankees get. And a little bit, I think that there's a sliver of truth behind what happens over the next few days, right? I mean, let's face it. If Jonathan India gets red hot again, it's 4 home runs over the next 5 games, and the Reds win 5 games in a row, you can't trade Jonathan India. And I hate to say it like that, but that's kind of where you're at. And I hope that happens. If that happens, that means the Reds are right back in the thick of it. And in a weird way, I don't know. It's just a weird psychological battle that I continue to have. I just don't think this team's very good, but I'll also clearly admit that, you know, I wouldn't put my life on the line that they're not going to make the postseason. I just, that's how bad the NL is. So they're fortunate, and I don't know if that'll last forever. I don't want to go into next year just believing that 500 record is going to get it done, because I don't think it will, typically. But the Reds need to find a way, to your point, to get just a little bit of leverage. The best leverage that they could possibly get is just having one more team. They don't need more than 2. If they get more than 2, great, Nick, but they just need 2. If they can get 2 to kind of bid against each other, I think the Reds will move on. I do. And they've already showcased last year that they were already wanting to do this. Nick Krall wants to do it. It's just a matter of whether or not they get the piece back in return that they want. Now, I will say Matt McClain being out all year might change that dynamic a little bit. I don't know how you feel, but we can move on to Reds MILB, or we can stick on this if you have any other thoughts on it.
Not really.
All right. Before we jump into Reds MILB, I'm going to do a couple supers here really quickly. One super. Ned Flanders, thank you for supporting us and supporting the show. He said, given Montas' shoulder injury, do we just let the season play out, try to get him to exercise his option for next year, and hope for a better 2025? I feel like if he exercises his option, that's not very good for the Reds, because that means they're overpaying for something that they probably wouldn't theoretically need to pay for. That's the only reason a player would exercise an option, in my opinion. Maybe you could convince me, Nick, that they love playing here and they don't want to go through the hassle of being a free agent again. I shouldn't say overpay. What I should say is that they're equal to or overpaying, because if it's relatively close to what he would get anyways, he might decide he doesn't feel like dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a raise to $16,000 next year. Is it 14 that not thousand million?
Yeah, it'd be cool if it was 1,000, but yeah.
Yeah, you definitely want him to pick up that option. I don't know. I mean, I think that's probably close to about his value, and unless he has a great second half, I don't think there's going to be another team that's going to give him a multi-year deal, which is the main reason he would opt out.
Do you think the Reds will pick it up though, without being too getting into the weeds?
Well, the Reds have to pay him $2 million if they don't pick it up. So that's also a factor of, well, we could pick it up if we don't. We're still paying him $2 million. I don't know. He's right. He's right there. I know people.
What about Rhett Lauder? What about Chase Burns? That's my only thought. Is that at some point they might just say, we believe in the guys that are coming up to take those spots.
I mean, I get all that, but we all offseason said, hey, where are all these position players going to go? And
I know.
I have a hard time believing you're ever going to have too much starting pitching. I mean, if you have to have these guys be overcooked ready at AAA, oh, shucks. I mean,
you're willing to pay. Like, you're willing to pay a premium for that. Yes, I mean that's not cheap money. We're not talking cheap money here. They could go out and that could help them pay to get somebody from a offensive standpoint.
Yeah, but it's a 1-year deal. I mean, again, it also depends on what the budget's going to look like. If you don't have a lot of extra room, then yeah, I mean maybe you do have to use that on a bat. But I would have no problem with having Montas again next season at that price. But he still has 2 months left to kind of define who he is. I mean, you could feel we felt completely different about Frankie Montas 4 weeks ago than we do right now. Yeah. Another month passes, he has 4 or 5 great starts in a row. Everyone's going to feel completely different about him again. He hasn't pitched a full complete season yet, and it's his first season coming back. So it's really hard to say. Like right now, I say I don't think it would be a bad deal. But if he pitches really poorly, if he pitches the same way he pitched in July and August, then I'm probably going to start going to the camp that, that would be bad for the Reds. It's still a lot of season left, whether he's on the Reds or not.
I'm just saying that the money that you would obviously save, if you want to call it that, could be put to better use if Chase Burns and Rhett Lauder are Major League ready next season. And Chase Burns is Major League ready. I don't. Maybe I'm overhyping him, but he's Major League ready right now. Like, I think you could. I mean, outside the idea of burning his arm up and doing something that you can't do, but point is I think you could take Chase Burns from a talent level and put him on this Reds pitching staff in some capacity right now, and he would stick. Period.
So if we run through it right now, the Reds rotation.
Yeah.
Let's say Lauder and Burns both make enough improvements that they have to be in the starting rotation. You have Green, Lodolo, Abbott, and those 5. I mean, we have Brandon Williamson. He hasn't pitched all year. I don't really know what Brandon Williamson is. Carson Spires, I love what he's done this year, but I'm not gonna plant my fork. This guy has to be in the rotation. He can move to the bullpen. He can be AAA depth. Certainly, I'm not going to plant my flag on Graham Ashcraft. That's 5 pitchers, Trace.
I know, but you're also
one of those 5 is going to get hurt too. Those 5 are not all going to be healthy.
You're also forgetting a couple guys in AAA that are not good right now, but we could also argue they have the ability to bounce back and throw in the major leagues.
Who's that?
Well, I mean, Connor Phillips could possibly bounce back.
He hasn't pitched in 2 months.
Well, he could bounce back.
I'm never going to be worried about having too much starting pitching. I'm never going to worry.
Listen, I'm not here to convince you that it's bad. It's a bad idea to re-sign Montas. I'm just openly saying that Montas. We'll see what happens by the end of the year. I'll have a strong opinion at the end of the season on Montas, one way or the other, because this guy hasn't really done it for a couple seasons as is, and he was clearly hurt last year. I get that, but that's part of it. And he hasn't missed a ton of time this year, but he's missed some. We'll see how healthy he is by the end of the year, and we'll see how he is capable of pitching towards the end of the season. And on top of that, usually pitchers don't get better as they age. I'll leave it at that. Usually, unless you're Justin Verlander.
I agree. I would have no interest whatsoever in signing Montas for a multi-year deal, but it's hard to find pitchers that are willing to do a 1-year deal at Great American Ballpark.
Right.
That is a that's what. But again, we need to see more out of Frankie Montas before you go one way or the other, and it could completely go one way or the other. Wouldn't surprise me either way. If Frankie Montas had a great August, wouldn't surprise me. Frankie Montas falls off a cliff in August, wouldn't surprise me. He's the kind of pitcher that you just don't know enough about at this point.
Fair enough. He's the Will Benson of pitching. Just a lot older. Reds MILB. We have minor league action today, and considering it's an earlier show, best of luck, Nick.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait for the podcast for most of this. Louisville is trailing 7-4. Good news though, TJ Friedel is playing again. He does have a walk expected to return on Friday. That's a whole another piece. I don't know. Maybe after we do this, we need to discuss who goes down or cut. That's a, I guess, interesting topic. What else is going on? Chattanooga's winning. How about that? The Lookouts are up 2-0. Dayton is beating Fort Wayne 5-4. Carlos Jorge is getting hot. Really excited about that. He's homered in back-to-back games. He also he's 2 for 3 tonight. Been on base 3 times, so that's great to see. And then Daytona having a rough night. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. We did have some action that was already completed over the Dominican Summer League. Wild score. The DSL Rojos beat DSL Dodgers Bautista 20-17. We only have one prospect in that, though, and he actually went 0-for-5 with a walk in Nabil Mariano. Then the DSL Reds, they beat the DSL Rays, a totally different game, 2-1. So 2 very different scores. The DSL Reds, it seems like they're putting some of the top prospects on that team because that's the team with a good record, and they're trying to get them in the playoffs, I think. They're 2.5 back. I think they still got several weeks left in their season. But not a whole lot in this one. Adolfo Sanchez, 0-for-2 at the walk. Yekel Soriano was 1-for-4. And then Trace, tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, the final game for the ACL Reds.
Oh.
The final game of the season. So is it for Sheng-In Lin? We did see some Sheng-In Lin highlights. Shout out to the guy that was at the ACL Reds game.
Yep.
Put out some Sheng-In Lin film for us.
Yeah.
Warmed my heart. I really want to see the Reds send him to Daytona.
I don't know how he got a chance to see the entire field with the 3 other people that were there.
He had to fight through.
All right.
But yeah, tomorrow's it, Trace.
That's a shame.
TJ Friedel. Who goes down?
I don't know, man. Feels like it feels like I know who they're going to send down, and the people are going to be pissed.
I think it's Hines.
Yeah, that's who they're going to send down. And you know what? I don't think that's fair. I'm going to get out ahead of it and say I think it's BS because I think he's played a pretty good right field. They're not. I don't know if we're giving him enough credit for the defensive side that he's played. He's played good defensively, and you can't play any better than he's played. And I know whatever, hadn't got a hit since the All-Star break, blah blah blah. Or I think he's had. Has he had a hit? He's 1 for. Whatever. It doesn't matter. He had 9,000 hits before the All-Star break. Had 900 home runs. Like you knew he was going to cool down a little bit. I don't know.
I think it has to be a right-handed bat, just simply because the Reds had a right-handed bat on the bench the last time they faced a lefty. They could option Santiago Espinal. That would kind of be a little bit of a surprising move, but he has options. You have Noelvi Marte now that can play shortstop, so you're not you don't feel as pigeonholed, but if you also are considering trading Jonathan India, you don't want to option Santiago Espinal because he has to stay down in AAA for, 10 days?
Yeah.
So that might also throw that into the risk. I mean, they could cut Austin Slater. I think I want to see a little bit more out of him before I cut him. He just only played 3 or 4 games. He has a pretty good track record of hitting left-handed pitching. I think it's one of the, I don't think they're sending Will Benson down. I think Will Benson's done just enough lately that I think the Reds want to continue to give him run. That's what my opinion.
Rearranging deck chairs. I don't know. It feels like getting rid of Hines or sending Hines down would be. I don't know. Will Benson's not going to get sent down, you don't think?
I don't think so. I mean, he had a good game on
Well, I mean,
Monday night in Atlanta. I just you've rode with Will Benson.
I know, but I mean, he said, well, yeah, he had one good game. I mean, oh man, golly. Let me swim through the piles of trash to find the one good game to make sure we can keep him up here for a couple of days to make sure that Reese Hines, the guy that's been hotter than a firecracker. I get it. I don't think that I'll say this openly. I don't know if it makes a damn bit of difference on almost any of the moves. I don't want to cut Slater though, because I feel like that's just ridiculous. Like what are we doing? And I know that they didn't trade it. I know they didn't trade anything. They traded Alex Young to get him. It was a worthless trade. No, it doesn't matter. Alex Young got DFA'd before. He got DFA'd before I think even got to San Francisco. So, I don't know.
Last 17 games for Will Benson, 105 WRC plus.
Oh, here we go.
Been a little better.
What then what's how many games?
Say 17.
All right, how last 17 games for Reese Hines. What's his?
I mean, I think it's a little higher.
Just saying. Just asking.
I mean, you're rolling the dice on any of those guys. Like, I mean, you're rolling the dice. What does Austin Slater give you? That's a good guess. What does Will Benson give you? That's a good guess. What does Reese Hines give you? That's an even tougher guess. I don't see them. I don't see them sending Will. I would be very shocked if they send Will Benson down.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Someone's going to get hurt. Sick. Someone's going to get sick.
Maybe. I also just, I know they want TJ Friedel back, but it's almost like, should you just wait till after the trade deadline?
They might do that.
Well, but they already came out and said if everything's good, he's back Friday. They kind of went out very publicly on that and said that.
Yeah, it's fair. I'd rather have TJ Friedel back anyways than have to not cut Slater or not send Benson or Reese Hines down, to be fair. So we'll figure it out. I can promise you that. Somebody will come up with gastritis if they have to. All right.
Can we still do like the COVID IL? So it's only like 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, they had COVID last year. Remember, the whole team had COVID. I thought at that point was long gone. No big deal. Anyways, all right. Who, what, when, where, and why before we get to the Nicolas Cage pillow and the dunk as usual. Take it away, Nick.
Yeah, Reds off on Thursday. Going to start a 3-game series in Tampa Bay on Friday. Rays currently losing 6-2 to the Blue Jays. If that score holds, the Rays will be 51-51. They do play another game in Toronto tomorrow at 3:00. Rays have not announced starting pitchers yet in the series. I don't even want to read this line because I feel like it's a jinx the way the season's gone. But the Reds will miss the top 2 arms this season for the Rays in Zach Eflin and Taj Bradley as they pitched today and tomorrow. Reds announced Lodolo Friday at 6:50, Andrew Abbott Saturday at 4:10, and then Hunter Green on Sunday at 11:35 a.m. I think that might be a Roku exclusive game.
Oh, no.
No, it's you can still watch. You don't have to have a Roku. It's on like the Roku app, which I think is available elsewhere. I think it's a Roku game. Yeah, it says watch on Roku. So yeah, the Roku game. I'm way in the weeds here. I've put it on a couple of times. the Roku uses the local team's broadcasters. Usually they've been using like a mixture of both teams. Usually they'll use like a sideline reporter from one team and the broadcast from another. So I'll be interested if Sadek's on the Roku or not, but interesting nonetheless. Rays have a very platoon heavy lineup. 4 spots in their lineup are regularly platoon. So yeah, big series for the Reds. Reds have actually played very well in Tampa. Though I don't have that in front of me, but they played well in Tampa.
Place is a dump.
21-14 all time against the Rays. Best winning percentage against any active MLB franchise. Reds 6-3 all time in Tampa.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I
don't want to read any of these things because
right.
I said it on Sunday night. I was like, yeah, the Reds are playing the Braves. Doesn't look good, but
right. No, we did. You're right. They swept them. They swept them. Who knew? There it is. All right, Nick, take it away. See what we got here. I like that's a big league baby machine you got back there. The little rocker swing.
Yeah, it's comes in handy.
Does that actually work? Is a little one like that?
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Some days she'll stay in that for 4 hours. Other days, we'll stay in there for 3 minutes.
Like I had 2 kids that they could care less about it, and I can't remember which one. It was like that was a godsend, that machine. So
we did get a question on Twitter.
What we got?
Maybe we could get to from Troy. Troy is a loyal listener. Appreciate you, Troy. On Reds beating good teams and losing to bad teams, is it they're playing more loose, free because they aren't supposed to win, or they play tense, choked up on bad teams?
I don't know. This is an impossible question to answer, but I think that there's some semblance of there could be a combination of their mindset definitely maybe whether you want to they become hyper focused or they know that they're going to have to play at the absolute top of their ability to win. One would say, hey, you should do that every game. But maybe it's partly that and maybe the other team overlooks the Reds too. I mean, the Braves, I don't know if the Braves are overlooking them. They had a players-only meeting after losing 1 game to them. But the Dodgers and the Yankees certainly could overlook a team like the Reds. But I don't know. I think it's just weird. It's a weird season. Just the same thing that you always say about one-run games is kind of my answer to this. It just seems like luck of the draw.
I think there might be some merit to the other teams. The other teams maybe not overlooking the Reds and maybe that of helping the Reds this year. As far as the Reds in particular, I don't think it's necessarily like the Reds playing down to competition because the absolute bottom of the barrel teams, the Reds have dominated. Like they've taken care of business. They swept the White Sox. They crushed the Rockies. They won a series against the Marlins. So the absolute worst teams in baseball, the Reds have played very well against. So I don't think you can say they're playing down to their competition. They've played down to their equal level of competition. I mean, it's Trace, it is wild. If you look at the NL wildcard race right now, literally every team that the Reds are like in that mix with, they have a losing record to. And like the Reds are 1-5 against the Diamondbacks. The Reds are 3 games behind the Diamondbacks. I mean, that flips. The Reds are entire season looks different. So it's
I remember Kevin Newman getting a game-winning hit. I remember.
Those games have defined the Reds season, and they didn't really feel all that big at the time.
Oh, they felt like a big time when Diaz blew that save with Kevin Newman and who was the other bastard that was celebrating with it? Suarez? Was it Eugenio?
Yeah.
Oh, disgusting. I haven't forgotten about it.
Doesn't even feel like that was this year.
Like that was this year.
Lifetime ago.
That might have been the lowest point. That was the absolute depths of hell. Yeah, don't say that game didn't feel like a lot. I'm having scar tissue just start to form as I speak about it. Disgusting. Makes my skin crawl. Kevin Newman. They were selling Kevin Newman cleats at Reds Fest for $5 frickin'. Anyways. Probably because you needed a wheelbarrow to get him out of there. That's how heavy those cleats were.
There he is.
Anyways, it was a bad joke. Definitely even made it worse by laughing. All right. It's time for a dunk. Time to hit the outro. And this is the time in the show where I just say, you know what? On days like today, I'll have to clear that graphic, put it back. Hopefully when Nick gets it out of there. There we go. I'm just going to say out loud that, you know what? If you're in this stream tonight, then you're an OG, man. You're an OG. There's a lot of people that come and watch our show, and we love them all, don't we? We love them all. We're not here picking favorites or anything like that, but we love them all that watch us. But I'm well aware that there are certainly folks that join this show, and things are going great. But on a night like tonight, where the game gets canceled, it's kind of a weird time, hit or miss. Who shows up? The OGs show up. I see you all in there, enjoying your night, having fun banter back and forth. I just want to say one more time, as always, we appreciate you. We thank you that you continue to support us, and we'll do our best to keep trying to do a good job. And we'll see what the Reds end up doing. Buyers, sellers, I don't know, but I do know this. Go Reds forever and always. Love y'all. I'm going to go try to be an athlete.